The Rooiberg Pass was built in 1928, most probably under the supervision of the Divisional Council of Oudtshoorn. It joins the tiny village of Van Wyksdorp with Calitzdorp over the Rooiberg mountain. This is not a pass to be trifled with, and although it can be driven in a normal car, a high clearance vehicle would be much better. It's a fairly long pass at 14 kilometers and contains some fairly rough sections. There are a total of 69 bends, corners and curves, which include 6 hairpins and many with a turning radius in excess of 90 degrees. It's a road for the less hurried traveller and offers wonderful views on both the northern and southern sides, with valleys and ridges bedecked in fynbos, and in winter you'll be treated to the sight of the bright orange flowers of hundreds of thousands of flowering aloes. The pass has an altitude variance of 509 meters over a distance of 14 kilometers, producing an average gradient of 1 in 27, with the steepest parts measuring in at 1 in 7. At the northern start, the road swings through a tight S-bend where the entrance to the old Rietvlei farm disappears into the well-wooded valley. The entire northern sector of the pass falls within the boundaries of the Gamkaberg Nature Reserve, or previously known as the Groenfontein Nature Reserve. From this point, the climbing begins at a gradient of around 1 in 10, and the width of the road decreases. A number of corners need to be negotiated as views of the valley open up on the right. At the 800-meter mark, the first hairpin bend makes its appearance, which swings sharply to the left through an arc of 130 degrees. You'll need to drop your speed right down to 20 kilometers per hour for this corner. Once through the hairpin and the direction now into the east, the road continues climbing steadily, following the contour of the mountainside in a long right-hand curve which lasts for 500 meters. At the 1.3 kilometer point, you'll get a good view of a substantial dry-packed stone wall which props the road up just ahead of the second hairpin. This is an excellent place to pull up and enjoy the scenery. The apex of this hairpin is fairly wide and allows stopping space for 1 or 2 vehicles on a reasonably level section. But make sure that you've fully engaged your vehicle's handbrake. This hairpin is attractive with its old stone walls and is in a perfect setting, especially so for vehicles that are descending. It's the most photographed point on the pass, and even from the relatively low elevation of 382 meters, one can see for many kilometers over the irrigated orchards and fields to the south of Calitzdorp and beyond. This northern side of the Rooiberg is carved into several ridges with some very steep gorges. The pass follows the middle ridge, flanked by the biggest gorge called Waterkloof to the west and an unknown smaller gorge to the east. The nearby town of Calitzdorp is renowned as a center of the port wine industry in South Africa, with several major wine estates famous for their award-winning products. A port festival takes place in the town in mid-June each year. The road now heads back into the west and grinds its way up the mountainside towards the Waterkloof for 600 meters as the views open up over the valley to the right. The gradient along this section is fairly steep at 1 in 11, and this continues all the way to the 1.9 kilometer point where the second hairpin bend is reached. Calitzdorp is popular with tourists, and it's a haven for fishing, bird watching, 4x4 routes, horse riding as well as wine tasting. The town gets very hot in summer, with 40-degree temperatures being the norm. This hairpin is very tight and turns through 170 degrees. Like the other hairpins, we recommend a speed of 20 kilometers per hour through these corners. New chevron boards have been placed around this bend to warn drivers of the imminent danger. Once through the hairpin, the road heads east again through a long right-hand curve with a gradient of 1 in 14. As altitude is gained, the views become better, and the constant changes in direction on this pass ensure that your views are constantly changing. At the 2.2 kilometer point, the road enters a big U-shaped bend to the right, but the turning radius of this bend is fairly wide, so there's no need to lower your speed. Once through this bend, the direction settles into the south-southwest for the next 200 meters, all the while climbing steadily. In 1910, the population of Calitzdorp was 4,000 and a larger church and school were needed. Both buildings were completed in 1912. The Neo-Byzantine-style church was declared a national monument in 1991. Be sure to watch parts 2, 3 and 4 of the fabulous Rooiberg Pass.